You're not going to believe what America doesn't have, but China has.
America doesn't have this, but China does.
What you're seeing is something quite incredible. You are seeing an Australian travel vlogger who not only has nothing to do with America and is going to China to say China's better than America, but somebody who's willing to trample on little children and tear families apart. Think I'm joking? Keep watching. So you may have heard of gaslighting. You may have heard of strawman arguments, but have you ever heard of 20-second flooring? You see, this is when travel vloggers go to China and go on these paid set-up tours around certain areas in order to promote China and do fluff pieces, right? And it comes from the fact that you've got hundreds of these vloggers. They all go to the same place in Chongqing. They walk around and say,
You feel like it's ground floor.
On the ground.
Ground level.
The ground floor.
On the ground level.
The ground floor.
Ground floor level.
Ground.
On the ground floor.
Ground level.
On the ground floor.
First floor.
First floor.
The ground level. On the ground.
You'd be forgiven for thinking that we were on terra firma. However,
We are actually...
we are in fact...
But you actually...
I'm actually...
Actually.
While actually is actually...
You're actually...
But actually... We're actually...
You're on the 22nd floor of a building.
On the 22nd floor.
22 stories up.
20 stories above the ground.
You're on the 20th floor. Is that we are 22 floors up.
We are on the 22nd floor right now.
That's a 22nd floor.
Yeah. 22 floors up.
You're at 22nd.
On the 22nd floor. On the 22nd floor.
And down here, there's 22 floors down the side of this building. Oh my days, check that out. 22nd floor.
So as you can see, we've called it 20-second flooring. Anyone who goes to China ends up in the same spots, saying the same things, glazing China, saying how amazing the infrastructure is, or how much better it is than the West, or doing those crummy thumbnails of America versus China, or USA versus China, where they show like drug addicts and a shiny new building or a park and, like a rundown subway station in the USA or something. These are the 20-second floorers, if that can ever be coined properly. Still doesn't really roll off the tongue. Anyway, speaking of getting paid, deep within the corporate offices of a data broker, something is happening behind closed doors. They found your address online, and now you're in distress. They bother you with hate mail. You wonder what is next. We sold them all your info. We're truly moralless. You cannot escape us. We're data broken bros. When you browse the internet, when you click on accept a cookie, when you sign up for some or other service in a shop, your data gets sold to data brokers, and data brokers then sell it to other people. But there is a way to get your name and personal information removed off of these lists, and that is Incogni. You see, they do the fancy footwork and all the hard work for you. There are thousands of data brokers out there, and for you to go after each one and legally request for your name to be removed would be incredibly time-consuming and costly. But Incogni does it for you. You give them permission, and then they will, on your behalf, send legal letters to all of these different data brokers to get your personal data removed. If you're tired of junk mail and you want to get rid of all these targeted adverts and take your privacy back, go to incogni.com/Winston and use the code Winston to get 60% off. Protect your privacy today. Go to incogni.com/Winston and use the code Winston to take your personal data off the market. And now back to the show. I was searching for a video on one of my channels. I've got a couple of channels. I've got a live show I do every Friday. I hope you can join me. It's super fun. But I have a clips channel. And the clips channel is where we take certain segments out of the show, we edit them, add a few extra things, and, post them up every day. So I searched China Fact Chasers. And YouTube served me an advert. And it said, because you searched China Fact Chasers, you're going to like this. And it put up one of those pro-China, absolute BS travel vlog type things, where it's like, oh, this China's so amazing, etc. And of course it says it's sponsored, it is something paid for. But it's strange. It's one of those things that you have to search my channel and it's going to pop up. So I thought, okay, let's go take a look. Let's look at this channel. The first video that comes up is America doesn't have this, but China has it.
America doesn't have this, but China does. America doesn't have this.
You're right, America doesn't have that amount of pollution. But no, honestly, he's talking about a glass bridge. But I hate to burst his bubble, America has glass bridges too, and in fact, the Grand Canyon glass bridge was opened a full decade before this one. He must have seen my comment and changed the title. Here's the thing, the dude's Australian, alright? Don't know if he's been to America or not. Don't know enough about the guy, but why would you go to a foreign country and compare it to America rather than your own country? Isn't that a little bit suspect? Well, it turns out this is a very common thing that a lot of YouTubers that go to China do because they know it gets clicks, because at the moment, China despises America. And if you want to generate any kind of views and clicks from the Chinese audience anyway, very easy. You just need to say, America sucks, China's great. Glaze China a little bit, shit on America a little bit, and bam, there you go. Not only do you get a lot of views, you'll get a lot of support, you'll get a lot of these kinds of comments, like what are underneath his video. I think my favorite comment is, I like bridge. But anyway, you get all these comments that are just like, oh, you are true and handsome. China is great. You are great. You know, that type of thing. And of course, that's very encouraging, and it makes you want to do it more. I've seen this across the board. You'll see a lot of people that are doing China videos try to compare it to America, even if they themselves haven't even been to America or know nothing about America. That's besides the point, though. So I'm like, okay, this guy's doing a bit of shilling, you know, he's earning them shillings from the Chinese government, whatever. Lots of people do this. It's easy. It's cheap. I'll dig a little deeper.
Xinjiang, vast, mysterious, and filled with stories waiting to be told.
What do you know? Look, they're going to Xinjiang. Now, for those of you who don't know about Xinjiang, I'm sure you do, it's a very controversial area. Controversial for a couple of reasons. Number one is this whole hoo-ha over the Uyghur minority there. And you know what they say. Some people argue that it's a genocide. Some people argue that it isn't. I'll get into that a little bit later. But the whole point is that it is controversial. And China doesn't like the bad image because you've got the international community pushing back, saying don't buy cotton from Xinjiang, don't deal with any products coming from Xinjiang because there's forced labor and that sort of thing, right? Look, we all know bad things go on there. You could try to pretend they don't. You could try to rename, you know, what's being done there into something else, but it is terrible. I know it's terrible. I lived in China for 14 years. I know what's going on there. It's awful, right? So what do? You go there to do what we like to call genocide denial propaganda. Pretty straightforward. Lots of people have done it. You go to the tourist places in Xinjiang, look around and say, oh, it's great. There's no genocide here. There's no oppression. People can dance and be happy.
Super interesting to see this perspective of the Islamic religion being practiced here.
Do you see how sinister this is? There is no religion being practiced there. That is the Urumqi Grand Bazaar. It's all about shopping. They have an open-air mosque there, but that's not about religion. That's for sightseeing. It's a place to go and look and take photos. It's for the Han tourist majority. This is the place that all genocide denial propagandists go first. It is the first step of any genocide denial propaganda tour. And it's really, really disgusting to see people still going there, trying to pretend that this is some kind of freedom of religion. You've got a bunch of people dressed up in costume dancing because they have to. Anyway, very, very, very bad stuff. But you know what? I get it. Sometimes people can get duped into going to these places. Maybe this travel vlogger is just kind of innocent and got asked by the agent that's been, you know, taking him around and getting him around China to that place. And he thought, well, let's check it out and have some fun and try some of the local food. But no. The dude literally does Xi Jinping propaganda.
来中国看中国，讲讲中国故事。
Xinjiang.
讲好中国故事。
讲讲中国故事。
讲好中国故事? Are you kidding me? This guy is doing Xi Jinping propaganda. That is literally Xi Jinping saying, this is what we have to do for our propaganda, is tell a China story well. Tell the China story well. That's what we'll do. This guy goes up there and says,
讲讲中国故事.
and then goes on to talk about the CCP's infrastructure programs that are going to be built in the future in the area.
So this whole entire city behind me is currently under construction. You might be wondering, what are they actually going to be using this for? Well, they're building this whole entire manufacturing place for trade. So everything that will be manufactured here will get onto the railway and go off into the rest of the world.
Interesting part is they have planned to finish it by 2030.
Oh, okay.
Very interesting. What else is this guy going to do? Oh, what do you know? Belt and Road Initiative propaganda. Okay, so basically this is just full-on propaganda. He's now just a propagandist. It went from, hey guys, here I am, and I think that the food is great here in China, to literally turning the dial up to 11. And look, this is what's made in factories here for the Belt and Road Initiative, and this is what the Chinese government infrastructure projects are. Guys, come on. Have a little bit of self-respect. Now, this is a warning to everybody out there. It's a slippery slope. You go from, hey, this is amazing, look at the lights, what a great place, look at the high-speed rail, to literally, there's no genocide here. Look at the Chinese government's great projects that they've gone and taken me to the showroom to make sure that I show to the world, because now I am literally just their paid puppet. I mean, guys, come on, have a little bit of self-respect. And just don't get me going on the mosque thing. They try to say, oh, Uyghurs are free to practice their religion. What they don't tell you is that there's a very famous mosque you can go to visit, but it's a tourist spot, and you have to pay an entrance fee.
First of all, I really like the design of the building. Look at that. I like the yellow color, and then we have the little towers here on the left, on the right side. That looks very cool. Oh, you have to pay to enter? I think if I understand this correctly, price 30 yuan.
Yes.
And I have to buy a ticket here?
Yes.
Ticket?
Yes.
Okay, I come back in 20 minutes.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
It's a tourist destination. All the religion has been stripped out of the area. All the people dancing are paid actors. Literally, even if they are Uyghur people, which the majority of the people dancing around are, they're doing it because it's like a tourist village, right? It's like you pay the Minnie Mouse who's dressed up at Disneyland to walk around in a costume. They get a salary. It's the same thing with all these tourist spots and the Uyghurs there. They don't just spontaneously all dance and play the exact same instrument and do all the exact same thing. It's kind of creepy, it's kind of disgusting, and I could go on for it for a very long time because it really boils my blood. But I wanted to just give you guys a glimpse into what's going on here. All of these China travel videos that are coming out now, every single one of them are sus. The majority of them have been paid for by the Chinese government through agents. It's just so the Chinese government can have a degree of separation. So they pay for, and like I said, I've received the invitations, I've received the emails. They'll pay for your flights, they'll pay for all your accommodation, they put you up in a 5-star hotel, they take you around, they show you exactly which places to go and tell you which places to go and what's interesting, etc. And of course, then they keep an eye on you while you're there to make sure you don't stray off a path or film the wrong thing. Everything you see coming out of China is something that China wants you to see. Here's the thing. While China is trying to trick you into thinking that China is somehow living in the future, the hard truth is that a huge percentage of China is living in medieval times. And this isn't a joke. I'm being 100% serious. Doing farming with oxen and hoes and digging in the mountains and using medieval farming techniques. And it's such a disservice to these people who are struggling and the poor people in China who really, really struggle. Because when you hide that from the rest of the world and you only put forward this like shiny, look at how great China is kind of thing, those people get ignored. Nobody even knows they exist, never mind cares about them. And so by putting this glossy bullshit idea out that China is so way ahead of the West, those people are going to be the people who suffer the most. And it's true that two things can exist at the same time. You can have flashy, futuristic Christmas tree buildings and medieval farming in the countryside. They could both exist at the same time, but then they should both be represented, and one shouldn't be pretended as if it doesn't exist, and you're only showing the one side, the one shiny side. And that's the unfortunate truth about China, is that it's still a very backwards country. It's still very full of poor people. The majority of people outside of the cities are living way worse than you could ever imagine. But of course you don't know that because, hey, 22nd floor, right? Anyway, guys, I hope you learned something about this. Don't trust these absolutely annoying travel vloggers. And what is it with British couples doing this, by the way? For some reason, British couples have now become the newest, the biggest propaganda mouthpiece for China. So unlike these genocide denial propagandists, these soulless, moralless, absolute scumbags who go around doing all these things in China for clicks, stay awesome. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. It's people like you that are going to help make a change in this world. And if you're interested in supporting what I do, please check out my secret show. There's a link below.